Hey guys, it's Chris and I'm back with another Witcher video, this time The Witcher Episode 3, Betrayer Moon. Really still digging this show, very good so far. This was actually based off the short story that introduced The Witcher called The Witcher. So let's jump into it. Episode 3, Betrayer Moon. So I liked how this episode opened up. You had a kid, basically scratched by a big-ass rat somewhere, and you saw a Witcher standing there in the background, and you realized later on this was not Geralt, this was another Witcher. At first I thought it may have been from the cat school. There are different schools of Witchers, although there are not a lot left in the world, but this was another from the wolf school apparently later on when Geralt found him. It was a little cover-up, so you can see how they get a bad name in some cases, but this is because Triss, another main character, was introduced here, so you will see a lot more of Triss in this show. I can tell you that now, just saying. I won't jump ahead and spoil anything or whatever, but let's just say that she'll be another kind of semi-main character. We find out a lot more about Geralt this episode. He opens up in a brothel with his scene. Obviously, told you before, he's a ladies' man, and he's got to fulfill his carnal urges from time to time, and he doesn't care necessarily who it is, as long as he's attracted to him. That's just who Geralt is. Now, the timelines are a little bit all over the place so far, but I think they're trying to make this a continuous thing and try to kind of sync them up at some point, because you had Dandelion mentioned by the girl in the brothel, actually, and she had said this bard came by singing about the Witcher, so he's already spreading the word. So quite a bit of time has obviously passed since the last episode when Dandelion and Geralt first met, which is not a thing in the books. They're already kind of established as friends, but I guess they had to start somewhere. So again, Dandelion, or Jaskier, the original Polish name, that's his name in the show, he has obviously been spreading his toss a coin to the Witcher tune. I love how Geralt talks to Roche. He came out and said, don't judge me for, hanging out in that brothel for a night or three. I think it was there 3 nights is what the guy said when he busted in trying to get his rent for the room. So that's one thing I don't understand about Geralt, is he always seems to be broke. I mean, there's not a lot of work, and he said that before, but it's like he gets paid some of these big sums when he does kill a monster or whatever it is, but he seems to be broke really, really quickly. I'm guessing he's spending it on food and brothels, just a guess. But this actually follows, again, like I mentioned in the opening, a main storyline, a main short story that actually introduces him in the short story books called The Witcher, ironically enough, and it deals with a monster called a Striga. So I won't go into all that. You saw the episode already if you're watching this video, but essentially you can see what they do here with this show, in the books for that matter, is he deals with real life issues and politics and all that kind of stuff in a metaphorical way, but at the same time it's actually a physical creature. So it kind of paralleled Yennefer's storyline. We got to see her turn into the Yennefer we all know and love. She turned into hot Yennefer, obviously, after going through the transformation, following the same theme that magic, it takes something, you have to give up something in order to gain something. It was the same with the rock and the flower you saw in the previous episode. She essentially had to give up her fertility in a very nasty little ceremony and procedure in order to gain her beauty, and she does learn to use her sexuality. So now the real Yennefer comes out and we get to see her. Very interesting character for sure. So that kind of paralleled what happened to the Striga. We saw Ada, in a sense, get her beauty back at the same time, but this time obviously being different because Geralt lifted a curse by keeping her out of her sarcophagus until the next morning, till the rooster crowed 3 times or whatever. At the same time, Yennefer gave up her fertility to gain her beauty, and now she'll start using it. You got a little bit more sense of Geralt and his detective work. Anybody that's played the video games, especially The Witcher 3, you know that Geralt's like a master detective, sleuth, whatever. He goes around and he can simply smell something or look at a track on the ground or whatever, and he can tell you the entire story about what happened there. That's the way it is in the video games, the books as well. I think the video games probably a little bit more, because with this heightened sense of smell, he simply connected the guy who smelled that way to the Striga, and he's the one who ended up cursing her in the first place because he used to love her, yada, yada, yada. So that's the way they do things in this world. It's still political intrigue, but they can actually physically do things with magic to affect the person or an outcome or whatever it may be for their particular goal. We saw a little bit before what I talked about in the last breakdown. We saw the Council of Mages. This is where they decide where to send these sorcerers and mages and all that kind of stuff to particular kings and queens, and that's what prompted Yennefer to take matters into her own hands and go through with the horrible procedure that she went through to gain her beauty so she could start using her sexuality to her advantage. So Geralt essentially uses the guy as bait to capture the Striga, or lift the curse from the Striga, I should say. And this kind of goes along with the theme I've talked about before about Geralt. He could just simply go in there and kill it for money and leave, but he does try to help people for the most part when he can. So he damn sure would have killed the thing if he couldn't figure out how to lift the curse, but if he can, he'll definitely help people whenever possible. Also, with the continuity issues, as far as what I'm talking about with the timeline all over the place, you notice that he gave the king, whose daughter was the Striga, the brooch from Renfrey. That was Renfrey's brooch that we saw in the previous episode. So I don't know exactly how they're doing with the timelines. I think for the show, they're trying to kind of have this all happen at one time, and then they'll eventually come together and sync up the timeline or whatever. But in reality, as far as the books goes, these happen at all different times or whatever. So I think at least for the show, they're going to try to get all the introductions out of the way as far as the main characters and build those characters up a little bit so you can know them, whatever, and then kind of bring them together for so-called destiny. But yes, overall, another great episode of The Witcher. I really like how they do the dual storylines, or actually the trio of storylines, because you have Ciri and Yennefer and Geralt all kind of flashing around to each character, and they have a very similar theme. So again, this one was all about Yennefer gaining her beauty and using her sexuality to her advantage to start taking power into her own hands, and you had the Striga kind of return to her natural human form. She kind of got her beauty back, so to speak, although she will need help the rest of her life as far as being kind of mentally handicapped, I believe. But it was all about transformation is what I'm saying. Then of course you had the really cool ending where Ciri was somehow entranced by the Enchanted Forest, the Haunted Forest, whatever you want to call it, and was drawn over to that forest. And I think we'll see the results of that obviously next episode. And Mute Boy, who could actually talk, the elf that's helping her out, was chasing her. He kept getting arrows slung at him, but somebody wanted Ciri to come up in there. So I guess we'll see that next episode. Anyway, guys, another great episode. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And by the way, these videos seem to be really well liked so far, at least on YouTube, for a new show. So I really appreciate all the support. And thank you so much for the continued support on Patreon. And a huge shout out to my executive Patreon SmokeScreen producers. And of course, if you dig what I do here, please give these videos a like, comment, and a share. And be sure to subscribe to get everything, and click that notification bell so you're notified when I drop a new video. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.